Hello everyone and welcome to an unboxing of Monster Hunter the board game from Steamforged Games. I've covered a lot of games by Steamforged on the channel and over on my gaming channel and gaming stream. Over the years, since 3 Ultimate, I've covered every Monster Hunter game for copious amounts of hours, literally hundreds of hours, that is not an exaggeration, and been waiting for Monster Hunter World, the board game, for quite some time. Originally, when the campaign ran, decided against it, but then they offered a second chance opportunity during, I think, Black Friday or something like that, and I decided to go in then. And what you have before you, I think, is the all-in for the game. It has been a couple of years, so don't quite remember. 2 self-contained core boxes for the Ancient Forest and Wildspire Wastes. You can play both of them as a self-contained adventure with the monsters and hunters those come with. You can also mix them together for a longer campaign. Then you've got some Elder Dragon expansions for harder threats once you finish the monsters in the base campaign. You have the Kickstarter exclusive Kuliaku and other Kickstarter exclusives hidden in there, and then also the Hunter's Arsenal, which barely fits in the top of the frame, and that was extra hunter weapons and models, I think. Again, can't quite remember. I believe my weapon of choice, although I tend to use quite a few weapons, like mixed between 4 more or less when I play the video games, there is one I usually settle on, and I think it's represented in that. But we're going to start by looking at the core boxes and go through all this, grab a cup of tea or something, settle down. It's going to be a long one. So of the 2 sort of core boxes, we're going to start with Ancient Forest because that is the real first area of the game after you run through the opening mission. So 60 to 90 minute game, recommended for age 14 plus, 1 to 4 players, although if you are playing solo, it is heavily recommended that you still use 2 hunters yourself. This is because of the way the monster aggro mechanic works. If you use a single hunter, you don't quite get the full experience. As per the designer's words. Also worth mentioning, there is some misprints, unfortunately. They really shouldn't have slipped by on a campaign that made £3.5 million, but they did. The cards are getting discovered and reprinted. Errors in the rulebook, however, are only being corrected via PDF. However, future prints of the game will be corrected. That's not a great decision, in my opinion, for those who backed the campaign, but whatever. Massive monsters inside, yes, that is very, very true. So there's just a quick overview of what you get. Very, very similar to how the boss fights and mini boss fights worked in their Dark Souls board game, we covered on the channel here as well, with monster facings and AI cards showing you how to do the monster actions. And they represent the hunt to find the monster by kind of going through a storybook where you make decisions and whatnot. But it is mostly about the fights. You do a story level boss or quest to hunt a specific monster, then you can do an optional one that's harder, and you can do an arena one if you don't care about the story and just want to get to fighting the monster. So we're going to try and lift this off here. It's on there nice and tight. There we go. We've got ourselves the box art from the original game right there, and that is protecting what looks like Raffles Wings to me. Oh, and along with a little organizer thing there. Nice. So that's telling you where to put everything, although I think I've heard some complaints that if you sleeve everything there's not enough room. Don't quote me on that, it's just something I've read. So we have ourselves Raffles Wings. Models first, I guess. So we have ourselves, oh, there's the rest of Raffles right there. You know what, I'll put him together, so don't look at him right now. I might accidentally fall back on names we called these monsters, incidentally. A lot of the monsters have weird names, like for instance, this is Anjanath. We just called him Andrew. That's his name. This is Andrew to me. But let's take a look at the detail of this miniature. That is very, very, very detailed. Like even more so than the Dark Souls miniatures of equal size or greater. Yeah, this is our pink, fluffy, fire, sneezing, snotting T-Rex type monster introduced in World. Kind of the first main roadblock you fight. So hopefully that was a good enough look up close of him there. I do kind of want to, let's see, how easy is he to go back in? I've already forgotten which way around he was. I think he was that way. Yeah, there, something like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So then we also have Toby Kadachi, who we just called Toby. He's an electric squirrel wombat type thing, with a little bit of a lizard or snake on him. Again, very nice detail. Tail is a bit awkwardly, well, I mean he does have a big tail in the game to be fair, awkwardly long compared to where the base cuts off, but very nice and very detailed. Now we are going to keep a little tally here because some people are reporting they receive broken minis or damaged minis, and so far this seems perfect. I'm not going to put him back in just yet because I think it's easier if I don't in order to get Great Jagras out, aka Mick Jagger. He's like one of the first big monsters you go after. He's a pushover. He's a little baby in the game. He like if he eats certain things, he inflates and spits at you. Mostly just rolls around and dies, more or less. Not a threat to an experienced hunter, but I'm sure in this game it will be different because every hunt has to be at least a little bit challenging. You can die real easy in this game, from what I remember. Alright, I'll put these back in and I'll get Rathlos assembled so we can look at them nice and proper. Here we have Rathlos assembled. Again, massive amounts of detail, very nice. And no issues getting the wings in, although I do notice there is a notable gap there. My friend who's already received their game like a week or so ago mentioned that to me. Didn't seem to happen on this side, but there is a very distinct gap there. If you didn't want to unassemble the miniature to put it away, because if you do want to put it away you will have to unassemble it, you could definitely fill that with like green stuff or you know, green stuff equivalent. If it's painted, you wouldn't notice, I would say, because it just looks like it's casting shadow where the wing elbow kind of meets the shoulder, so that's not so bad. Detail wise, again, really nice. Yeah, it is only this wing that there's a notable gap. This wing, it went in super smooth, no issues at all, and again, the texture detail is real nice. So there is Rathlos. We're going to move on to the cardboard and whatnot in the box next. I'm just going to move this out of the way as well. So next inside we have ourselves our tokens and whatnot that had poly wrap on it. I just removed it before starting recording. So these are the tokens that we need. These are for tracking the monsters. That's for breaking, that's for break, and I think that's for hunter health because monsters have much more health than that. So we have a few of those. Yeah, that's the one for the monster health because it goes up to like 110 apparently. There you go. And then these are for environmental obstacles or you know, things on the map. And then speaking of the map, we have the map itself. 2x2, I think. That seems like 12 inches. Yeah, probably 2x2. So one-sided. No, wait, no, it's two-sided because I think the arena is on the other side. Sorry, let me just see here. No, it's just two areas of the ancient forest. I'm not going to be able to fit this in frame, but it is very nicely detailed and colourful and not reflecting that much light, which is good. And here's the other side, what I can show of it at least. Just a different area of the ancient forest. So that is very nice. And beyond that, we have ourselves the rulebook. First time playing, yeah, there's a quick start video guide. There, like some people have already started playing this, so there's some very helpful videos already out there for how to play this. And do keep in mind there is some errors in the rulebook. I couldn't tell you specifically what because I haven't read it through fully. I read the Wilds by Waste one semi-recently and I noticed a couple of mistakes myself, but they weren't rule mistakes, they were grammar and typos. Either way though, that is the rulebook. It is 39 pages counting glossary and whatnot, and there is a quick reference on the back. And then we have the quest book. I rip it. There we are. So this is the quest book. So this has the story tier. What is it called? Assigned. That's what they call it. I can't remember offhand. Assigned quest is like your story one. I think you can try those as much as possible in a campaign until you do it and it doesn't eat your time. I might be misremembering. Then you've got a harder version of the same monster, worse time constraints, and usually they have a harder attack in their deck or something like that. That's your middle tier, and then you've got Tempered. Tempered is a mechanic they added kind of late in World. I don't quite remember if it was added in Iceborne, probably not. Either way, that's your really hard hunt, essentially. So normal, hard, very hard. And that leads us into, I don't want to read too many of these, but these are your story things, where you gather, find the monster, and then eventually it will say you discover the monster, go fight it. And this is what you do before an assigned quest. There's one for Rathlos as well. And oh yeah, Azure Rathlos is at the back there. Okay. And some glamour shots. And arena quests, there we go. So yeah, you can do arena quests as well on the various difficulties. That's if you don't care about the story stuff at all. Just do the arena quest, you skip all the investigation, you just go straight to fighting the monster. So counting the pictures, it's 59 pages there. So next, we have our hunter boards. This is a hunter stamina board, kind of similar to how Steamforged did their Devil May Cry game that I covered on the channel a long time ago, and did it so badly it forced them to make a let's play video on how to use the rules for the game. And then we have, what's this? A pad for keeping track of your hunters. I believe you can download a PDF of this for free from the Steamforged website to print off as many as you like, if you want to make it a little bit larger as well. So that tracks your campaign days if you actually want to run a campaign that has a limited number of days to hunt all the monsters. You keep track of the monster parts you have, because that's important for what you can craft gear wise. What's in your inventory for potions, I presume, and then your ores and hides and miscellaneous stuff. Oh, actually no, your ores go up here. It looks like you just like write how many you have and update as necessary. So you get quite a few of them, not as many as you would hope, I guess, considering you're supposed to play like up to 4 hunters. There's maybe like 12 there or something. Then move on to, well, let's just get the stuff out of the way. The game is not dice based. The dice is for picking like loot tables after you successfully hunt a monster, so, and sometimes options during the hunting the monster phase, like roll to see what happens, that kind of thing. So there's not many dice, it's just basic dice. I'm surprised it's only 3, I would have thought 6, but those are tokens for the various dials we looked at earlier. That's all that's hidden in there. Then we have, you know, these are the monster cards, but they're sealed, so I'm going to open them in a second. Let's look at the hunters that come in this box. So, are they all, well, these are obviously a lot smaller than the monsters. So this is a hunter with dual blade. Looks like, I can't quite tell, I think that's Anjanath's armor. Anjanath's armor, if you don't see it the right colours, is kind of similar to Rathalos's. I think that's Anjanath though. So that is also very nicely detailed. Not as detailed as the monsters, I would say. The dual blades are also way oversized compared to the hunter. They are not that large unless that's a certain type that is that large. I'm just not familiar with. I don't really play dual blades that much. We also have sword and shield. Oh, this is the Rathalos armor. Yeah, that's the classic Rathalos armor right there. So sword and shield Rathalos, female hunter by the looks of things. Again, detailed and no particular issues at all with being stuck to the base or anything like that. So 2 of the 4 you get. You also get bow. I don't really use ranged weapons, but if I do use a ranged weapon, that's my one of choice most of the time, is bow. What armor set is this? Toby, I think? Again, without the colours, it's actually testing me. It's been a while since I played World as well, because I've been playing Rise and Sunbreak. And then we have, oh, good old Great Sword. That looks like the Great Jagras armor to me, with Great Jagras sword. That's about the right size. I feel like that Great Sword's ever so slightly too thick compared to the ratio to hunter to weapon in the game. But again, it's been a while since I played World, so I might be misremembering. Very nice either way. And again, no issues with the sculpts. That was all perfect. Alright, I've got to remove the polywrap off some more stuff now. So I feel like in terms of stuff to show off properly, this is the last thing in the box that really needed to have the polywrap removed this second, and that is the references for the big monsters you fight. So this is Great Jagras's. This is where you track how much HP he has, what weaknesses he has, how you build up stats effects, how you build up break and what happens if you break, how much armor body parts have, and then on the back is their drop tables. So this is where you would roll the d6. You can either take each d6 result as a separate thing, or you can combine them to try and get a higher number. So it goes up to 12 because that's the highest you can get on 2d6. Maybe you're supposed to only roll 2, I'm not entirely sure. Either way, Jagras. Oh, that would be the harder version of them then, will it? Where does it? Oh yeah, 2-star. So 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. Same for Toby. And then same, well, let's show off. That's very difficult, Toby. And then same for Anjanath. Hopefully these are in focus, because I'm having trouble looking at them and the camera at the same time. Rathalos, and then I presume Azur will be in here. Yep, Azur Rathalos is here as well. I think there was a separate model you could buy for him. I didn't get that obviously because it was a separate purchase. So then you have the Forage references, and I think this is where some of the misprints are mainly focused. So on these it tells you what parts you need from monsters and what ores and such you need to craft better and bigger gear. And on that side it's the same but for armor. And there is some discrepancies between what this tells you and what is true. I don't remember the specifics in this in the Ancient Forest box. I do remember specifically the Wildspire Waste box, which is the one behind there. It tells you to get a Barith tail for certain things. Barith doesn't drop his tail. It's a misprint. So that's one of the things they'll be correcting. I think they said they're going to be like doing a form where you have to go fill it out if you want the replacement cards. So if you get in the game, get the replacement cards. If you're buying it down the line and there's a second print, it should have everything fixed in it, in theory. Although they've been doing a little bit of a bad job spotting them. Because even when they showed off some of the fixed cards, they were like, oh, and I noticed there's a mistake in the fixed cards. So you really shouldn't be pointing that out. That's not a good look. You made £3.5 million on this. But either way, I digress. So what's left in the box? I'm not going to bother opening up to look at exactly because I'm going to need to sit and go through them carefully to make sure there's everything there. We have hunk of Monster Hunter is what I meant. Hunter weapon cards that tell you how to curate your damage deck, because as I say, there's no dice rolls. You do damage by drawing it from a damage deck. So there's one for weapons, there is one for armor. Again, same, just different gear. These are your, tons of them. These are your damage cards. Oh, looks like elemental damage cards on the back as well. That's your damage cards. That just means you would do 1 damage. And most of you, you get reduced down to 1 damage. You will never hit a monster and do nothing unless your weapon is blunted. More weapons right there. Oh, underneath that. Yeah, there we go. Underneath that is the monster behavior cards. So you see the back of them, so you know in advance who it's going to be targeting. I don't remember offhand what the symbols mean. It's been too long. But that tells you who it's targeting. So for instance, in this one, it's targeting whatever that means. Move towards them 2. And then doing that attack for 6 damage on its front arc. I think that's dodge difficulty and that's block or something. I don't quite remember. Again, it's been a little while. And then this tells you how many hunters are allowed to take a turn after the monster and how many cards are allowed to play. So it is relative. It looks like such a garbled mess of symbolisms and whatnot. Once you understand, it's actually really simple to read a card. I know it looks bad just to look at it and be a jumble of numbers and icons and whatnot. It is easier once you know what the symbols mean, I promise you. There is a third pack of can't even get this one out. There we are. Third pack of gear, bow gear, because there is that many cards required for all the weapons represented in the game. And then these are the time cards I was just referencing, I believe. So there's an example of one called Tactical Shift. And these drain as you find the monster. They drain at the end of every hunter's turn. If you run out of them, you've failed the hunt. So that's the other fail condition. Carrying 3 times also fails, just like in the video game. Stuff like that. So these time cards are events that can be good or bad. So that is it for the Ancient Forest. Before we jump right into the Wildspire Waste, I think we're going to look at the Hunter's Arsenal and then maybe the Kuliaku as well. Alright, moved in a little bit closer because the Hunter's Arsenal box and the Kuliaku box with all the Kickstarter stretch goals and daily unlocks and whatnot are a bit smaller. So this is core set required. If we look at the back here, this is just another bunch of hunters with different weapons. Oh, it has my weapon of choice. Gun lance is my weapon of choice. That wouldn't have been the armor I would have liked. That's the Great Jagras armor and Great Jagras Junkrat. I almost said there. The Great Jagras gun lance. There we go. Not my first choice for design I would like to have painted, but that's okay. I don't even recognize that hammer armor, to be honest, at a glance. I'm not a hammer user. Hunting horn. That looks like, I was going to say Puki, but that must be Toby, right? Oh, actually, no, not necessarily. It is going by Wildspire Waste because that is the Barrett stuff on the lance, and that is Rathlos on the light bowgun, and I think that's Anjanath on the longsword. Longsword in particular, I believe that the instruction on how to use its special rules is one of the wrong cards. I think I'm remembering that offhand. Oh, these must be Doot tokens for the hunting horn, however its mechanic works, I have no idea. So we have our rulebook for using these additional hunters. Let's see here. 43 pages. Oh, it has some... Oh, it's got the Black Diablo stuff in here. Let's see. Okay, so that was the other one. Oh, actually, it's got some quests for everything else too. I wonder how they're different. Oh, because the arena quest you have to have set gear. Because one of the arena quest type quests in the game, you fight with set stuff. So that'll be why. Doesn't mention their special rules. Yes. So the gun lance mechanic is shelling and wavering fire and wavering stake, I presume. And you've got like the spirit combo for the longsword. You've got your song buffs for the hunting horn. And what else? Lancer's usually poke and counter. It's a boring version of gun lance. So yeah, there's specifics. There's the longsword page that I think is incorrect, either in here or on the printed card, one of the two. So then we have the forged cards for the weapon. You know what, we will look at these, so let me get them open. Alright, so I presume there's going to be 2 for each weapon in here because of covering both the core boxes, Ancient Forest, Wildspire Waste. So that's longsword, on the back should be armor, yeah. And yeah, that's the Ancient Forest monsters. So that'll be Ancient Forest for all of them. There's my gun lance. Let's see here. Yeah, so that tells you what you need to upgrade and then what your damage deck is once you've upgraded. And hopefully that's all correct. Oh, let's see. That is the Toby armor on the light bow gun. Now that I've seen it coloured and in-game, I can tell. The Gunlands... Oh, actually, that wasn't Great Jaguars, assuming this is the right model. Hang on. I'll know for sure when I look at the model, but that doesn't look right. That's just one of the generic armor sets. Isn't that Iron Ore set or something? Strange. The Lance, that looks like a generic set in the picture as well. Oh, that's the... Is that the Paolumu armor on the Hunting Horn? They didn't use that for the model, did they? Because Paolumu isn't even in the game. In this game. So yeah, then you get a copy of the card for the area as well. I just remember Paolumu's armor mostly being white and fluffy, and the male version being a sailor costume. That's the two things I remember. So then you've got the decks. I'm not going to bother opening these because, as I say, there are some misprints, but they are just your weapon sets and gear sets for the weapons represented here. What matters is the minis, but just for reference sake, there's a lot of cards. Other thing to note is you are going to have to use this box to store them because I don't think there's excess space in the Ancient Forest box, and presumably not in the other one either. So we'll see when we open it. So there's Gunlance as well, longsword stuff at the back. Let's take a look at the minis. So the light bow gun. Yeah, that light bow gun. This is Raffles armor, so the pictures weren't matching the gear at all. That's okay. But no problems with how that looks. And we've got ourselves the lance here. Oh, it's in there pretty tight. There we go. I think the lance model was slightly bent for my friend. This looks fine to me though. Getting a bit harder to get into focus than the big old monsters, but yeah, that is tight to go back in. You kind of have to put it in sideways and twist. Oh, it looks like the longsword is. Yeah, there's a wonky longsword. Quite wonky actually. Yeah, that's a shame. It's because it's quite thin. Well, if you want to sort it, you can sort it with some hot water, or that's basically your only option, to be honest. And the hammer, the big old bonk weapon. Let's try and get close. Probably without zooming in, it's probably not going to be super great, but that's okay. Hammer, hunting horn. He doots as he pleases. And then finally, the most important one, the gun lance. Oh, come on, don't get out of there broken. Oh, that is in there tight. I'm scared about it snapping. In fact, I think the gun lance itself is loose. Oh, there we go. That feels loose. It's not coming off, but it feels loose. Wait, no, that's lance. That's gun lance. What am I talking about? Because this is the Barrett stuff. Looks a little weird, but the Barrett armor does look weird. Good, that means the gun lance one is fine. It's the lance one that is slightly loose. It's fine. I get them all mixed up when you can't see that one of them shoots. So the Kickstarter exclusive monster, the adorable Kuliaku who steals eggs and throws pots at people and also has pet rocks. I enjoy Kuliaku a lot, and I am also aware in advance that if we look at either side of this, let's see, where is it? Somewhere on this box they misspelt his name and wrote him as Kaliyaku instead of Kuliaku. Must be on the inside. Let's get this off. There we go. So on the side of this, it's spelled correctly there. It was confirmed by my friend that it is misspelled somewhere. Kulu. No, unless I'm blind, it must be somewhere else that it's misspelled. Or I'm misremembering which part was misspelled and I didn't catch it because I was only looking at the front there. But here we have, presumably, the quests to hunt Kuliaku. And a preview of the model, don't look at that yet. Oh, and this Forge reference, you don't get a Forge card, it's just printed in the book. You know, that's a little... Like, why? You having to print off his health bar anyway. I presume this is for tokens. So then we have... They're around this way, even though the box is around the other way. Okay, so we have our models, and we have our Kuliaku. I think it's just Kuliaku at various difficulties. Let me just do this in camera just real quick, because I think there's not many cards in here. There we go. Yeah, 2-star, 3-star, and your base. So it goes from 60 to 70 HP. and then drop tables are on the back as expected. Is his name spelled like... yeah, his name is spelled correctly there. So we have his cards. No, this is the gear for the hunters that are in here. I don't know which ones are in here. I think it's just alternative armor sculpts. So Kuliaku himself. Oh, they did him holding a rock. Basically just a friendly bird wyvern. He has a rock and he wants to show it to you, in brackets, aggressively. Very adorable. It's a shame you have to murder them, but whatever. Nice looking. Oh, we have our Palico miniatures and Poogie as well. So there is Poogie. He's kind of like a mascot of the Monster Hunter games. He always is hanging around your starter times. He's just a pig that you can dress up. You know, Palicos are your assistants in combat. I think they do something gameplay wise, and this is just to represent them. So that's a Raffles armor Palico. You know, a bit hard to get in focus. I think that's in focus. Good detail for how small it is. This is, was he wearing the Lagombi stuff that makes him look like a fluffy bunny? I think that's the Lagombi stuff, I don't quite remember. Another monster that wasn't represented. Let's see here. Oh, and that's one using a gun that's using the Great Jagras armor, I think, from memory. I think it is, anyway. So I want to remember where everything is. So this is an action pose bow mini. What are they wearing here? Oh, I think some of them are done wearing the starter armor. This looks like it might be the Pookie stuff, I'm not quite sure. I don't recognise that. Sword and shield wearing Rathalos, or I guess you could paint it like it's your Rathalos to be different. There's no harm. Great sword, this looks like starting gear to me. Yeah, that's starting gear. Starting gear and starting sword. Doesn't look much different because in the base game world at least they kind of fixed this in Iceborne. Weapon upgrades didn't look distinct. And there's some criticism they took on board and fixed for Iceborne where the weapons do look distinct. Palico wearing, was that just the bone armor? Not quite sure. Something like that. Another bow mini. That's the starter armor. That's the starter iron stuff or steel stuff, whatever it's called, and I recognise that. I've used it. And then this will be a great sword using that stuff as well. So these are just then that's he's doing one of the charge up swings you do with the great sword. That's the exact pose. Very authentic pose wise. Oh, come on now. Sword and shield. What we got here? This I'll come around this side of the camera now. I'm getting to the other side of the box, and I'm left-handed. It is the starter gear for sword and shield. Wouldn't say that pose is particularly great. Dual blades. These look better. These dual blades look better. More appropriately sized compared to the hunter himself. And then another pair of dual blades. Again, still large, but probably more apt than that other set. And this is wearing the... what gives you a cape? Is that... I don't think that's Toby. Is that Anjanath as well? I don't know, it's hard to tell. Again, without the colours or pictures. So that is everything that you get in the Kuliaku expansion. It was just daily unlocks and then stretch goals and such. Oh, as I was putting it away, yeah, I was reading, I thought it was Kalayaku. No, they accidentally wrote Kula instead of Kulu. So, it's on that side of the box. And this side of the box. Kuliaku instead of Kuliaku. It's weird that they only did it wrong on those sides, but again, when you make that much money on a Kickstarter you ran for a week, you kind of expect these kind of things not to happen. So we're not going to be as thorough with the Wildspire Waste because essentially it is the same as the Ancient Forest, it just comes with a different assortment of monsters, but you still get the assigned quests and so on. I think the hunter models are different as well, so obviously we'll look at them. But in terms of assets and whatnot, the hunter board, the tokens, etc., they're identical more or less. So we're not going to need to spend time looking at those. What really matters is, of course, the models. Let's get this off the top. So we have a Diablos there, and on the back the quick reference, which we don't really need right now anyway. We'll do eventually. So we're greeted immediately by bits of a Diablos. So those are Diablos' wings. Let's get that out of the way. We'll do the same as with Raffles, because Diablos is a big lady. So we have ourselves my favourite monster to bully. It is Bareth. He's very fun. He's a mud puppy essentially, but he's also heavily armoured in the head and likes charging into you. Great detail again. Very, very impressive. The monsters are the part that are the main draw, so that's the important part to make look really good. The hunters kind of hit or miss, but the monsters are spot on. Wonderful, wonderful detail. Better than the Dark Souls minis they did in terms of detail. So we also have Puki, kind of like a chameleon thing that spits poison and also poops poison and whatnot. Basically it comes out both ends. He also eats berries and has severe allergic reactions to them, but that's okay. So yeah, Puki, fun little monster. Bit of a kind of weak one of the earlier ones you fight. How did that go back in? Let's try and do this right. There we go. So it's going to be a bit hard to get this out now, but this is Eurytotus, or as we called him, Eurytodas. It's a mudfish, and he's horrible, and everybody hates him. Not hard to kill, for the record, but just annoying. That's what he is. So we have that, and as a truck goes by the window, I'm going to do a break here to assemble the Diablos. So if you've ever hunted a Diablos, you're very familiar with the pose they decided to put her in, because that is right before she charges into your face with her big angry horns. And I did notice again, one wing kind of went in super smooth, there's no obvious problem, and then the other wing, it just doesn't go in quite snugly. That might be by design, I'm not sure, but there's a very obvious gap right here. And I was quite forceful with it. Maybe I can be more forceful, but oh yeah, I must have to be, because at the back there it's even coming off. Let's see here, because it has to go in there, right? Because that's part of the groove. Just look there, see part of that groove there? Should go in smoother than it is, and there's no... Maybe I have the wings on backwards. No, I can't possibly. Let me see here. No, because that's touching the ground, so it's not even that. No, that just doesn't fit in smooth. That is a very obvious gap there, where that is supposed to be fitting in smooth there. It is probably a little bit warped, and that's why it's not. Again, hard to notice unless you're looking at one particular angle, although you can kind of spot it there too. There's a gap there. So the ones that don't come fully assembled are unfortunately not as good because of those obvious gaps. Like, yeah, that is super obvious there, but that's not supposed to be like that. But I don't really want to twist and risk breaking the wing. The detail is fantastic though, can't complain about that at all. It is very nice. Well, we'll leave that as is. I'm not going to look at all the paper and whatnot, as I said, but there is hunters in here, so we'll look at those. So we look past the tokens and also the board. We go past the rulebook. It is exactly the same. Oh, actually, let's see if the error I spotted is still there real quick, because this is the version of the rulebook I did read through back in the day. And at the part where it describes how monsters move, let's see here. Where is it? Oh, they did correct it. Yeah, they used the wrong picture in the digital version, where, for an example, actually no, they didn't. They still kept it the same. Where are we? Where it described how a monster's AI card works, it described, oh no, it did describe a move, then an attack, because most monster cards are a move, then an attack. Some of them, though, are an attack, then a move. I presume the example they use in the Ancient Forest one is move attack, but they used a Barroth attack that happens to be attack then move and didn't change the text. So that might confuse people who only have this version. That's just one thing I noticed, besides a couple of typos. Quest book, exactly the same, just for the other monsters. You follow the story beats, you get to the hunt, you do the assigned ones, and then if you choose, do the harder ones. There is the hunter boards. We've got our cards here, we've got our monster health bars and Forage references, yep. So all those are the same. Then there's all those same cards, the weapon cards, the time cards, the dice and whatnot, but models wise, let's see here. So let's see, this is a switch axe in the Barroth armor, by the looks of things to me anyway. So it is different weapons available in this expansion. We have ourselves Insect Glaive. I don't know what possessed them to pick the Diablos armor for Insect Glaive. It's so bulky and ugly, and Insect Glaive is so much about dexterity and deftness and style. Oh, also it's bent, that's a shame. And there's so many other more fitting armor types. Obviously this is an armor type you can get for it, but the Diablos armor is just ugly, and for all the weapons to put it on, would have suited Greatsword or maybe Lance better. Speaking of, no, this is Charge Blade. So that is, whose armor is that? You know, I'm not sure. Maybe she would have told us. Nobody ever used this as armor, so I'm not entirely sure. But So it was switch axe, insect glaive, charge blade. Then we must have the other bowgun, right? Yeah. So heavy bowgun then, because I think the other one was light bowgun. Yeah, that looks like it. I think that's the Puki armor, which is pretty cool looking actually. A bit low tier though, so you would never use it for very long. But Puki armor. So other than that, it's essentially the same. Again, like all the damage cards and the plethora of damage cards in the damage deck. All that is the same, so we don't need to see that. We can move on to an Elder Dragon. So we've got the two smaller Elder Dragon boxes, which I assume means assembly is required, which is a bit of a shame. We'll end on the big bad Kshaladora, even though Nergigante is actually the big bad of the base game, but whatever. So we'll start with though Teostra, aka Fire. I was going to say Doggo, but well, you know, whatever. Fire Doggo. The Elder Dragons are kind of like the tail end of the campaign big bads. I'm not 100% sure how they incorporate into the campaign rules they use here, if indeed you choose to use the campaign rules. They're going to be used for Teostra's dust that explodes after a set period. That's what those are going to be for sure. So then we have our Teostra Rulebook. It's actually quite thick. Oh, because it has the quest at the back as well. 39 pages. And it is just Teostra special rules. Adding it to your campaign. Rarity 5 equipment. What does the adding it to your campaign say then? Let's just have a gander here. If you choose to include it in your campaign, it becomes the final quest you must succeed or successfully complete to win your campaign. So it becomes an end boss, but presumably you can use multiple. Honestly, I don't really see the need to do a campaign timer. Just hunt what you want. But that's my personal preference. I don't really see the need for a campaign timer, other than to have a proper, like, fully you failed point. That isn't in the spirit of Monster Hunter. Try again until you succeed is the spirit of Monster Hunter. Either way, we have our Teostra reference cards, along with Teostra drop table for assigned 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, etc. Then the important part. Oh, he is fully assembled. Come here, good sir. Let me take a look at you. I'll come around this side of the camera. Ooh, that is very nice. They definitely spared no expense for the detail of the monsters. And again, the monsters are the important part. And that is a very pretty miniature. And thankfully fully assembled, so there's no dodgy wing connecting points. But yeah, that is very nice. Not quite as large as I thought. Your average Teostra in World is pretty large. Larger even so than previous games he's appeared in, I think. Again, it's been a while. But I think in general he was fairly large. But yeah, very nice. Now let's see, can I work out how he went in this? I just pulled it out of the box, so I should be able to work this out. Not like that, like that. There we go, easy enough. He faces that way away from the cards. Speaking of which, that is gear, what is this, twin nails. So that's just more gear, and presumably gear you can make. And it might have some special cards as well, because he has special mechanics with the dust that he spreads around with his attacks. And his AI cards, there's an example of one. Flamethrower. So he moves 3, and then does the flamethrower's fire element, and then hunters get to do 2 turns with 2 actions each. Vague remembering of how to read one of the cards. Don't take it as 100% correct, because there's other icons there obviously. But that was simple enough, so let's just quickly put that away then. Incidentally, everything so far has gone away very nicely. Obviously you've got to punch all the card and whatnot, which might make it a bit harder. The top of the Wildspire Waste with the Raffles Wings, I'm not 100% sure I put that back correctly. I'm going to have to watch the footage back to see how it was, because I felt like that was just a little bit uneven. But we have ourselves Nergigante, Spiky Boy. Oh, I didn't show off the back of the box. You know what, let's just get stuck in, because the lid's coming off. So he has a spike mechanic then. He has spikes that are permanently growing on him. Very cool monster, probably my favourite of the new ones they created for World. 43 pages for him. Let's see here. Yeah, basically the same setup as Teostra, adding him to your campaign. So we go to page 6. Yeah, same. Exact same page. So you can only technically have 1 end boss. My personal opinion of that, nuts to it, have as many as you want. But that's just me. Oh, he is in bits. Oh, that's a shame. Bits on purpose, I mean, not bits as in broken, I hope. So let's see, for my own sanity, let's see how, I'll do this very carefully. This wing is in like that, and that is his left wing, I think. And then this one is the opposite way around, and that is his right wing, assuming he's facing away from you, which he is in the box. So I guess we'll see. Actually, you know what, give me a second to see how well they fit in, because look at the size of those grooves. It'll be very disappointing if they don't. So honestly, that went in almost perfectly. I just noticed that it's not quite so, like, right in there, but in terms of filling the grooves, the two wings went in perfectly. I already stabbed myself on him twice, but that's okay, because that's what he does. That is very cool looking. He has a very cool colour scheme as well. I quite like his just overall design. Not so much his mechanics, but his design I do enjoy a lot. I prefer Ruinous Nergigante, which is kind of like meant to be the harder version of him, because he is easier if you kill him quick. Without going into too many video game details, I don't think this has anything about Ruinous. Or was it called Ruinous or Ruiner? I don't quite remember. Either way, that version. I prefer that version because he's easier. But in terms of model, again, super fantastic, very high quality, very impressive. And you get the assorted cards hidden up here, weapons, drops, etc. What do we have here? We have the Nurgle Judicator, the switch axe from him. So it has one block on it normally, and then that tells you how you form your damage deck. It's got a 5 damage in there, which is pretty high. And what is this? Oh, additional damage cards. And AI cards, such as Charging Bludgeon, charges forwards 5 for 9 damage on 3 of his 4 arcs. That can't be dodged. That seems too easy to dodge that attack. Although I can't quite remember. One of them is a dodge value, and I don't remember what the other one is. But either way, AI cards. So now, the piece de resistance, the final thing to look at, Kushala Diora. So I know you're curious, did I get the Nergigante box back on smooth? And the answer is absolutely not. It is not designed by the same person. I'll need to watch the footage back afterwards to fix it. So anyway, despite being the larger of the additional Elder Dragons, very light compared to most of the other boxes. But this is the big Ice and Wind Dragon, Kushala Diora herself. And it's a 5-star mega boss, it calls it actually. So maybe it's even treated as a tier above Nergigante and Teostra, even though in the game, well, compared to Nergigante, that's a very impressive miniature. Basically, the box is just 90% miniature, and the entire miniature together. It's actually stuck in there, huh? How do we get this out safely? What was I saying? Oh yeah, Kushala Diora, Teostra, and Chameleos are usually together in terms of tier. And in World, you go between all of them. Well, I don't even remember if Chameleos was in that one now. Kushala Diora and Teostra definitely, but who was the third one? Oh, it was Val Hazak, who they never did for this game, I think. Again, it's been a while. When are you still? You're attached by the neck. You've been tortured. Hang on. Get it in there. There we go. Come here, Kushala. There we go. Oh, your tail is separate. Well, you got Dark Souls. So there is Kushala Diora in all her glory. Again, exceptionally impressive miniature, not just because of the wingspan, also exceptionally irritating to fight if you don't have poison in World anyway. They got rid of that mechanic for Sunbreak, thankfully, or for Rise. But still, a very impressive miniature, especially compared to a little hunter. So we have the tail in here. Let's see, there we go, there's the tail. Let me just see, how smooth does this go in? It's going in this way. Oh, upside down. Okay. And the answer is not smoothly at all. Oof, yeah, not smoothly at all. I'm not even 100% sure I'm doing it the right way. No, it's definitely that way. Yeah, oh, there we go, with a considerable amount of force. The tail is on. It can go in even further, I think. I'm not 100% sure I want to risk it right now. But actually, no, I think that might be as far as it goes. But you're not really going to be looking at the tail. You're going to be looking at how superimposing it is from the front, like that. So, very impressive. Where is... That's the... Oh, there we go. They're layered on top of each other. Again, the deck, Ice Steel Edge. So that's one of the cards you can earn from fighting her. AI cards. Double Bite. Move 3, it does 10 damage. That's scary. I think hunters have 8 HP for the record. So that's pretty bad. No instructions. Hang on, there's got to be instructions, right? Is it underneath? Yeah, there we go. There had to be instructions somewhere. So a casual 85 HP on the assigned quest Kshala. Reward table on the back. Wind and Black Wind, presumably. Kshala does do ice attacks, but for the purposes of this game I don't think she does. But in the game she does. So then we do have a big full page rulebook for her. It is 23 pages, it has arena quest and whatnot at the back. What does it say? Adding Kshala to your campaign. So let's see if it says the same stuff. If you choose to include Kshala, it becomes the final quest. Yeah, so it said that was the final quest for the other two as well, so I guess it is about the same. So sure. When you complete your first quest, Great Jagras or Barith, you can select Kshala. Don't fight Kshala right after fighting Great Jagras or Barith. They're tricking you as a joke. They're teaching you wrong as a joke. Don't do that. Oh yeah, so that's wind tokens and they're calling them tornadoes. Fair enough. So I guess she doesn't have the black wind mechanic in this then, which makes sense because that'd be hard to represent. Especially if you needed a poison weapon to really deal with it. That's how she looks, fully. Very cool paint scheme. It's kind of on her way to becoming a rusted Kshala. So that is it with the various quests and whatnot in there. I'll tidy this up and we'll have some final thoughts. So in closing, I got a fine assortment of miniatures. There was nothing damaged. A couple of the connector points for wings could definitely have been done better by Steamforged, but that's very nitpick in terms of things. The worst you're looking at is what? A bent longsword and a slightly loose lance. You can get medication for those kind of things, so it's probably fine. So all in all, very nice quality, very high quality, besides some of the stuff that slipped past QA, the typos, the incorrectly published or printed cards, and the things they are doing things about. To be fair, they're not just saying tough, put up with it, they are doing something about it, but some of these things should not have slipped by, and there's no denying that. It is a little sloppy, which is the original reason I almost didn't back the game. So I'm hoping to bring the game to the channel. I doubt I'll be painting up the monsters and whatnot before doing that because they are gargantuan tasks. At the very least I'll paint my hunters, I think. I plan to use Gunlance and Bow, just because I will use 2 hunters because that's what they recommend even if you're playing solo. But let me know how much you're looking forward to seeing some of the Monster Hunter World, the board game, being played on the channel, so I know whether or not to prioritise it, and I'll move it to the top of the painting queue and whatnot. And we'll give it a test game and see how it plays, see how it feels, and I can say from a point of experience whether or not it reflects the video game. Because for Monster Hunter alone, I'm pretty sure I did at least 500 hours, at least. I played it through at least 4 times, because I played it on console and PC, and both Iceborne expansions, and all the event quests, and we used to play it every Saturday on a stream, just for something to do with viewers. So Monster Hunter World was one of the Monster Hunters I put most time into, second only to 4 Ultimate, I think. So I am looking forward to playing this. It is a really good game both in video game format and hopefully in board game format. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you did also get this game and receive yours, how did the quality I received compared to yours? How did the damage compared to mine? Because I didn't have any. But I've seen people saying like, oh no, I've received like a monster missing a leg, or a hunter just broken in half or missing its weapons. Nothing like that here, and maybe I just got lucky, I don't know, or maybe the other way around, maybe those who had a problem like that, they just got unlucky. There is a form you can fill out for replacements if it's something you can't fix yourself, for the record. But that is going to do it. Thank you very much for watching this very long unboxing. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you back to see the game being played. Until that time, whenever it happens, ta-ta for now.